Smash that like button right now and welcome back to the channel, because if you are a Minnesota Vikings fan and you are not fired up about the 2026 NFL Draft right now, you are simply not paying close enough attention. Because the conversations happening around this team heading into draft week are not the boring, predictable, play-it-safe variety. They are the kind of conversations that involve jumping up 8 spots in the first round, trading away significant draft capital, and going to get the best safety prospect the NFL has seen in years before somebody else snatches him. They are the kind of conversations that involve an ESPN analyst pointing at a day 2 receiver from Alabama and saying he is the perfect fit for everything Kevin O'Connell is trying to build around the newly arrived Kyler Murray. 2 stories. 2 sides of the ball. One enormous picture of a franchise that has made the decision to compete right now and is willing to be aggressive to prove it. The 2026 NFL Draft is right around the corner and the Vikings are right in the middle of every big conversation. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, drop a like, and let's break this all down from the very beginning because there is a tremendous amount to get into today. Let's start with the defensive side of the ball, because the story that has the entire NFL draft community buzzing about Minnesota is one that Rob Rang at Fox Sports put out into the universe in his latest mock draft, and it is the kind of projection that once you read it, you cannot stop thinking about it. The Vikings are projected to trade up from their current position at pick 18 to pick 10 overall in the first round, a jump of 8 spots, in order to select Ohio State safety Caleb Downs. Let that land for a moment. Trading up 8 spots in the top 10 of the NFL draft is not cheap. It is not casual. It is a bold, aggressive, calculated swing at a player that multiple major draft analysts believe is one of the best prospects available in the entire 2026 class. And Rang himself explained exactly what it would cost. Both of Minnesota's third-round picks, numbers 82 and 97 on the draft board, gone in a single move to jump from 18 to 10. Now, before you start doing the mental math on whether that cost is worth it, let's talk about who Caleb Downs actually is, because the name alone does not do justice to what this player brings to the table. Downs is a 21-year-old safety who spent his freshman year at Alabama under Nick Saban, led the entire team in tackles as a true freshman, and earned SEC Freshman of the Year honors in his first season in the sport's toughest conference. Then Saban retired. And rather than stay and rebuild in a new system, Downs transferred to Ohio State, where he stepped into one of the most scrutinized defensive programs in college football and immediately dominated. He earned unanimous All-American honors in back-to-back seasons. He won the Jim Thorpe Award as the best defensive back in college football. He won the Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. He was the anchor of an Ohio State defense that ranked number 1 in the country in points allowed, giving up just 9.3 points per game. His 2025 statistical line alone should make every coordinator in the National Football League drool. 68 combined tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 2 interceptions, 2 forced fumbles, and a sack. From a safety. When a safety is recording sacks, it tells you one thing with absolute clarity. This player has the football IQ to read pass protections, the athleticism to exploit gaps and leverage, and the motor to find the ball on every single snap regardless of where it is on the field. He is not a coverage-only player who watches from distance. He is a problem at every level. ESPN's Mel Kiper, one of the most respected names in the draft evaluation business, ranked Downs as the number 6 overall prospect in the entire 2026 class. Not the 6th best safety. Not the 6th best defensive player. The 6th best prospect in the whole draft. NFL Network's Daniel Jeremiah placed him at number 9 on his latest big board. ESPN's Matt Miller compared him to Buda Baker, one of the most impactful safeties of his generation, and noted that opposing offensive coaches identify Downs on pre-snap reads the way they identify star pass rushers, as a matchup problem that needs to be accounted for before the ball is even snapped. NFL.com's Lance Zierlein described him as an alpha who brings immense juice on every single snap. And Mel Kiper added the phrase that should resonate most deeply with Brian Flores, that Downs is basically an extension of the defensive coordinator on the field. A player whose football intelligence is so advanced, whose ability to read offenses is so precise, that he essentially functions as a second coach operating in real time during the game. This is not normal for a player his age. The fact that he learned Nick Saban's entire system as a true freshman and then transferred to Ohio State and dominated again speaks to a cognitive capacity for football that most players spend their entire careers trying to develop. He came in, learned the system, led the team in tackles, and elevated. That is what exceptional football intelligence looks like in practice. And it is exactly what Brian Flores needs in that secondary. Because here is the reality of where the Vikings safety room currently stands, and it is not inspiring. Harrison Smith, one of the greatest safeties in franchise history, is 37 years old and his future beyond this season remains uncertain. He has been a cornerstone of this defense for over a decade, the kind of player whose football IQ and range set the standard for how a safety should operate in a complex scheme. When he eventually walks away, there will be a void that is genuinely difficult to fill. On the current roster, Josh Metellus has been a solid starter for 3 seasons and provides legitimate experience and continuity. But Jay Ward has started just 5 games in his entire NFL career. 5 games. If Ward is your projected starter on the other side of Metellus, that is a starting unit that has real questions attached to it, and in a division that includes Caleb Williams, Jordan Love, and Jared Goff, a shaky safety tandem is not something you can afford to carry through a full season. Caleb Downs changes that picture immediately and completely. Drop him into Brian Flores' defense and the secondary transformation is instant. You have a day 1 starter with the football intelligence to handle complexity, the athleticism to cover ground and match up against tight ends and slot receivers, and the motor to make plays in the run game that most safeties at his level simply cannot make. Ward moves back to the reserve role that better fits his profile. Metellus provides the veteran presence and the experience. And Downs becomes the centerpiece of that unit for the next decade. That is what you are buying with those 2 third-round picks. And yes, giving up picks 82 and 97 hurts. Depth matters in an NFL roster, and the 3rd round is where teams can find genuine contributors who punch well above their draft position. But consider the context here. The Vikings have 9 total picks in this draft. 9 selections across 7 rounds is an enormous amount of draft capital to work with. Trading 2 of those picks to secure a player that Mel Kiper rates as a top 6 overall talent is not reckless spending. It is calculated investment. It is the kind of move that Rang explicitly described as savvy, and he is right because if Caleb Downs somehow slips to the 10 spot and Minnesota has the ammunition to go get him, letting that opportunity pass in favor of protecting depth picks would be a mistake they would spend years regretting. The Kyler Murray signing also tells you everything you need to know about the organizational mentality right now. The Vikings traded for a former number 1 overall pick who has the dual threat ability and the upside that the entire fanbase has been dreaming about since the team moved on from Kirk Cousins. That move did not happen because this front office is thinking about next year or the year after that. It happened because Kevin O'Connell and the people around him believe the window is open, the roster is ready to compete, and the time to be aggressive is right now. Trading up for Caleb Downs would be absolutely consistent with that philosophy. It would be the defense's version of acquiring Kyler Murray, a bold, calculated statement that this team is not here to tread water. They are here to win. Now let's flip the ball over and talk about the offensive story that is generating real buzz in draft circles, because you cannot talk about winning a championship with one side of the ball while leaving the other one incomplete. And when ESPN's Ben Solak publicly identified a specific receiver as a perfect fit for the Minnesota Vikings offense, the Viking-watching community paid close attention. The player he landed on is Jeremy Bernard out of Alabama, and when you understand why the fit makes sense, it is genuinely difficult to argue with the logic. Bernard is a 6'1", 200-pound receiver who transferred to Alabama after time at Michigan State and Washington, and in his 2 seasons with the Crimson Tide he led the team in receptions both years. In 2025, he hauled in 64 catches for 862 yards, leading the team once again and demonstrating the kind of consistent, reliable production that defines a player who quarterbacks trust and offenses build around. On 232 career targets, he has been charged with exactly 4 drops. In his entire college career. For a receiver, that number is remarkable. Drops are the thing that drives offensive coordinators absolutely crazy, and Bernard essentially eliminates that anxiety from the equation. His route running is the defining quality of his game. Bernard is not the type of receiver who beats you with raw speed or freakish athleticism. He beats you with precision. His footwork coming out of breaks is remarkably clean. He makes cuts without losing momentum, which means defensive backs cannot anticipate where he is going based on his feet slowing down before a break. He attacks the ball in the air rather than waiting for it, which speaks to his hands and his confidence as a receiver. And he has shown the ability to contribute as a runner on jet sweeps, wildcat packages, and screens. 33 career rushes for 184 yards and 5 touchdowns tells you he is a complete weapon who can affect a game from multiple alignments. Salek specifically compared the role Bernard could fill for the Vikings to what Jawan Jennings has done for the San Francisco 49ers, a versatile, reliable receiver who plays with toughness, makes contested catches over the middle, and gives the play caller flexibility in how he deploys the rest of the offense around him. The Jakobi Meyers comparison for his long-term trajectory is also apt. A steady, productive possession receiver who accumulates yards, moves chains, and makes every quarterback he plays with more comfortable because of how reliably he wins on his routes. The reason the fit with Minnesota makes so much sense comes down to 3 factors that are all converging at the same time. First, Jalen Nailor is gone. He signed with the Las Vegas Raiders in free agency. Nailor was your WR3 last season, not a star, not a number 1 option, but a reliable third weapon who knew the offense, ran his routes cleanly, and gave opposing coordinators something to account for when they were scheming to take away Jefferson and Addison. Losing that depth and familiarity matters more than it sometimes gets credit for, because the third receiver on your team determines how freely your top 2 can operate when defenses commit extra resources to shutting them down. Second, Ty Chandler, the third-round pick from the 2025 draft who was supposed to be developing into that role, caught exactly 3 passes for 25 yards as a rookie. 3 catches. That is not a player who is clearly ready to step into a more significant role in year 2, at least not without serious evidence of development that has not yet materialized. The front office cannot go into 2026 counting on a player with a 3-catch rookie season to be a reliable third option for Kyler Murray in a crucial, high-pressure first year with the team. And third, this is the one that really matters. Kyler Murray is here. He is the new quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings. He is a former number 1 overall pick who has genuine dual-threat ability and real upside. He is coming to a new city, a new system, a new supporting cast, with everything to prove about whether he can be the long-term franchise quarterback this fanbase has been searching for. Kevin O'Connell is building the offense around him. Justin Jefferson is there at the top of the receiving core. Jordan Addison is developing into a legitimate number 2 option. The weapons exist. But for Murray to truly flourish in this system, the depth behind Jefferson and Addison cannot be a question mark. It has to be an answer. And Bernard, ranked number 55 on the consensus big board with the draft just weeks away, is exactly the kind of reliable, ready-made option who can step in at the WR3 spot and contribute from week 1 without requiring a learning curve. Salek described the best fit for Bernard as an offense that prioritizes the short to intermediate passing game and values receivers who can win from multiple alignments, offenses that feature West Coast principles, RPO-heavy attacks, or systems built on timing and anticipation throws. Kevin O'Connell's offense is all of those things. The system he runs rewards route-running precision, football IQ, and the ability to win on short to intermediate routes where separation is created by craft rather than straight-line speed. Bernard's skill set could not be a better match for what O'Connell is building if you had designed the player specifically for the job. And now step back and look at both of these stories together, because when you see them side by side, something larger comes into focus that goes beyond individual draft selections. On one side, you have the Vikings potentially making an aggressive, expensive trade up the draft board to land the best safety available because the secondary is a genuine need and waiting at pick 18 for downs is a gamble they may not be willing to take. On the other side, you have a legitimate conversation happening about adding a polished, ready-made receiver who fits the offensive system and the quarterback's needs with almost surgical precision. 2 sides of the ball. 2 real needs. 2 stories that are not happening in isolation, They are happening simultaneously because this front office has decided that the window is open and the time to fill both sides of the roster is now. This is not a rebuilding team. This is not a team stockpiling picks and quietly talking about competing in 3 years. This is a team that brought in Kyler Murray, that has 9 picks in this draft, that is reportedly willing to give up third-round capital to move up for a top 6 talent, and that is being named as the perfect fit for every interesting available prospect on both sides of the ball. The 2026 NFL Draft takes place in Pittsburgh later this month, and the Minnesota Vikings are going to be appointment television from the moment the first pick is made because every move they make is going to carry this kind of weight and this kind of context. Whether they trade up for Caleb Downs, whether they grab Jeremy Bernard on day 2, whether they find some combination of those two stories or go in a completely different direction, the conversation around this team right now feels different than it has in years. It feels like a team that has found its footing, identified its needs, and is ready to go get what it needs with confidence and conviction rather than hesitation and caution. That is exciting. That is the kind of front office energy that translates into winning cultures. And for a fan base that has been waiting a long time to feel genuinely excited about where this organization is heading, right now, in this draft season, with these players available, with these conversations happening, feels like the beginning of something real. Now it is your turn to sound off. Do you want the Vikings to trade up and go get Caleb Downs? Or do you think the cost in third-round picks is too steep? And would Jeremy Bernard be the right day 2 receiver to give Kyler Murray a complete supporting cast? Drop your hottest takes in the comments right now because I want to hear every single opinion in this community. If this video fired you up for the draft the way it fired me up, smash that like button because it helps this channel grow and keeps the Vikings coverage coming every single day of this draft season. And if you are not subscribed yet, hit that button right now because we are not going anywhere, and neither are the Vikings. Draft day is coming. The bold moves are coming. We will see you in the next video. Skol Vikings! Smash that like button right now and welcome back to the channel, because if you are a Minnesota Vikings fan and you are not fired up about the 2026 NFL Draft right now, you are simply not paying close enough attention. Because the conversations happening around this team heading into draft week are not the boring, predictable, play-it-safe variety. They are the kind of conversations that involve jumping up 8 spots in the first round, trading away significant draft capital, and going to get the best safety prospect the NFL has seen in years before somebody else snatches him. They are the kind of conversations that involve an ESPN analyst pointing at a day 2 receiver from Alabama and saying he is the perfect fit for everything